Hi, my name is Pedro, lead engineer for the Beamable and Real SDK. This video showcases some more improvements done over the past couple of weeks. So I'll start with the sign in, sign out, and sign up flows. You can see the basic sign up form here, but I already have an account, so I'll just use that one instead. Um, so you can see it's already set up here, and I'll sign in. So we go off and make a bunch of requests, and now we're signed in. And you can see we have 3 realms here at our disposal, and each realm in Beamable is an isolated environment. So when we create a new account and a new project, you get 3 by default: a prod, a staging, and a dev realm. So before we move on to the next step, I just wanted to show a little bit of the blueprints here. And these are the blueprints that comprise this UI, the sign-up flow and sign-in flow and the account management flow. And you can see that they're very, like, looking from afar, they're very similar to what you would expect in on Unreal. But we do have these beamable nodes that we're currently calling them Beamflow. And we have one of these for every request that is possible to be made in our API. And because we care a lot about blueprint navigation, you can filter these out rather easily. This is a pattern that we intend to keep all throughout our APIs in Blueprint land, which is it's always going to be beam something and then something else if we need, uh, so that you can easily find the things that you have, and so that you're not just stumbling through the global namespace trying to find the nodes you care about. So we want this so that engineers that don't want to work in C++ because of the iteration speed, as well as non-engineers that technical designers that may want to experiment with metagame features, can really leverage all that Unreal and Beamable have to offer. So that's the reason why we have this focus on enabling this stuff at the blueprint level. So the last thing I want to mention, and really quickly, is that all of our tools, like, this is the lowest level of our SDK. This is the cogen layer that we have. It's pretty much the lowest thing, the lowest layer that you can use in the SDK to access our backend. Which means we use the same tools that our customers can use. We'll obviously create things on top of that to make it even easier, but it also means that all of the things we build for the editor serve as reference, as well as if there's any pain points in the workflow, we're going to know about it because we're going to be going through it as well ourselves. But yeah, moving on, I'd like to go over the frictionless login flow that I have set up here in this other blueprint, and this is very simple. We try when the level play, when I enter the level, right, and it begins play, I'm going to see if there is a user authenticated inside the player 0 slot, and if there is, I'm just going to print their gamer tag, which is the player ID. And if there isn't, you can see I'm using the request flows, the beam flow nodes, to make a bunch of requests and authenticate the user without any input from them. And then I'm printing out the message at the end. So if I were to run this over here, what you would see, just let me make sure, yeah. So what you would see here at the end, at the log, is the message that there was no authenticated user, and the authentication process was successful. So if I run this, there you go. There was no authenticated player, and we successfully authenticated a user. Now, if I were to run this again, you would just see the gamer tag because we serialize out the authentication here. Now, on a final note, the number of players here, in other words, like multiplayer, running multiple Pi sessions, is actually supported. So when I run this now that I have set the number of Pi instances to 2, I'm going to see that the new Pi instance, the one that wasn't this over here, will authenticate its own isolated player into its own player 0 slot. So that's what you're going to see happening here. There was one at player 0, but in the other Pi instance, which is, you can imagine, a completely separate game, um, you know, there's an authentication going on. And if I were to run it again, now both Pi instances would be authenticated, so you would get two different gamer tags, UC747 and 749. So yeah, that's pretty much the current state of things. I'll add that this specific feature of multiplayer multiple Pi sessions, is very, very useful for making remote multiplayer features like matchmaking and lobbies, because you can do that without having out of the box, like, it's just supported, and that's really, really good. And it's something that makes developing that kind of stuff a lot easier. But that's about all for this video. Thank you for watching, and as always, any and all feedback is appreciated.